he's just a parachute minister. How do you respond to that?
You're not there to go and impose your way of thinking onto the ministry or the world, right? Anything that is not under anybody else's portfolio, okay, is MCCY, right?
Recently, there was a clip about someone calling us a strawberry generation.
Truth, about 30 years, I haven't ever met any group of people who will tell me that.
Wow.
Whenever a new minister is appointed, one of the first things Singaporeans do is Google their past, so I must know everything about them. And somehow we've noticed that quite a few of our politicians have an SAF background. Coincidence? Or what is it about former SAF leaders that seem to help them transition well into politics? Today, we finally get to ask that question straight to someone who has lived the journey himself. Please welcome Chief of Army turned Acting Minister for MCCY and Senior Minister of State for MOE, David Neo.
Wow.
Thank you. No need lah, yeah.
First and foremost, what is acting minister? Is it like you're on probation? Or?
Yeah lah, probation lah. Cannot make it, then okay lah, change law.
I see.
I hate to put you on the spot, but I think our audience wouldn't like it if we didn't address this particular question. So we move back to before becoming acting minister. Obviously, there's the election campaign. And I think you made particular headlines for a particular quote about the sun rising.
Yes.
Did you think that when you said it that you would get this much attention?
No, of course not. It was trying to make a simple point about the difference between correlation and causation. Right? There are a lot of things in life that it's correlated, right? But but it doesn't mean that you caused it to happen. For example, we're quite lucky in the last 2 years to enjoy extremely good economic growth despite the very challenging global circumstances. But it didn't happen by chance. There was planning involved. There was a lot of structuring involved to put the right people in the right places, to develop the right industries, to make sure that jobs are created for Singaporeans. So all these things don't happen by chance. And I think that's the key point I was trying to drive across, that in all that we do, let's just not mistake correlation for causation. Yeah.
Politics is so hard because you write a whole speech, right? And everyone just catches on the one line and none of the other messaging.
Correct lah. After a while, you realize it's like that one, right?
You just need
that
one.
But is that better than if nobody catches on anything?
Exactly. Has that experience changed the way you write speeches, even now as like minister or acting minister?
Yeah, I think so. What it has changed is, like you said, to kind of recognize that it doesn't matter how nice 99% of the speech is, the 1% people will pick, and that's that. And then so be it. But the part that it hasn't changed is that, one simple answer would be after that, walao, I'm not going to stay totally safe, right? Everything is like, very cut and dry, very kosher. I think, like I said, that wouldn't be doing anybody any favors as well. Okay, so it's the thing that hasn't changed is, to still continue trying new things, new ways of making sure people get the message. Yeah.
So far in your first year, right, has there been anything that like surprised you?
Anything that surprised
like you
me?
didn't know, minister also do this, or you didn't know, MCCY
have. So the colloquial joke is always, MCCY, you bao sua bao hai. Like you cover the mountain, you also cover the ocean. So everything lah, anything that is not under anybody else's portfolio, okay, is MCCY, right? Everything is about. Because everything is about building society, is about making a better tomorrow and all that. So I think that's one part of it. I think the other part of it is about, then I got to take care of my constituency as an MP, also fine. But then you'll find that there are all these other things you have to do, like you have to take care of clan associations to help, advocate for, and build up, culture base, our own identity in our respective ethnic groups. We all have to do that. Then you also have to advise trade unions, to help to advocate for our workers. So there's like another role. Then suddenly also got, macam got CCA lah. What's this ESR thing? How come suddenly got to go and chair this thing, right?
Your CCA.
Yeah, it's like CCA. So kena arrow CCA from PM's okay. So, but a lot of things like that.
With our opening, how we talked about like SAF ministers going into politics, right? The most common complaint from the man on the ground is that he's just a parachute minister, like he got a parachute into this place, right? How do you personally feel, right, when you hear this term and like how do you respond to that?
HR professionals will tell you that when you kind of shift job, you try to change no more than 1 out of 3 things. If you intend to change, you either change your function and role. If not, you change your industry. So in my case, okay, country never changed until Singapore, but the industry changed, right? From defense, security, technology to, culture, youth and sport. Then of course the role also changed, right? So it's 2 out of 3. So naturally it's difficult, but then you would have to be open, be humble, then go and speak to as many people as possible, talk to mentors, reverse mentoring young people as well, about what difference this role can make, how can you make an impact to everybody, how can you help, and then understand your own role, and then from there, if you need to acquire new skills, you acquire new skills. And then from there, you build up over time. I think when it comes to being a minister, naturally it'll be a bit like that, because I don't think there's any other equivalent role to being minister, right? So that the role bit, for sure got to change. Okay. And then the second part, of course I would have loved to be in MINDEF again, but I think that's also the part whereby, you find that you have the greatest growth in life when you're out there doing something different. Because when you're doing something different, you can see contrasts, you can see differences, then you can see where things were the same, where things were not the same. And then that helps you to be able to understand the system, and that helps you to understand where can you actually make a difference.
Actually, it makes sense because even when we look for a job switch, right? It's at minimum we try to go lateral.
Yeah.
If not, then it's a bit up,
Yeah.
Right? So it's as chief of army, then where does he go? Actually, it's correct. You know what I mean?
It's
but I think the conversation, whenever it comes to the parachute, that conversation, it sounds derogatory, but the reality when you condense it down is that there's this fear that people from the army means there's going to be a level of groupthink of I'm molded in this thinking. So when I go into public service and I enter another organization, I'm going to bring that institutional thought over, and then there's not going to be change. It's just going to be more of what came before will continue on. So that's the fear that I think people always have.
Then when it comes to that, it really comes back to this point about understanding why you're there, right? Yeah, I mean, you're not there to go and impose your way of thinking onto the ministry or the world, right? But it's about being there. It's about understanding where people are at, where they want to go, what are the hurdles and difficulties in between, what are the things that are going well, and then how can you make a difference by overcoming the hurdles, doubling down on the places doing well, so that actually as a community, we are able to move forward purposefully. For example, one of the very simple issues was recognizing our athletes, right? So we have, for example, athletes in artistic swimming, right? They represent Singapore in the World Aquatics Championships last year, but then under the old rules, they could not be recognized. And then it's why like that, right? So now because I'm sports minister, as well as on the MOE side, you can ask some questions, and then that gets the wheels turning, and then you find that this time around, or rather late last year, all 63 sports would be recognized by the MOE as well.
Okay.
So things like that, just to bring people together and then help break down walls across ministries. It's very useful. But I think it's all a function of what are you needed, and how can you best contribute. And if that's the role you have to play in the team, then you just step up to it and do your best.
At least what I'm hearing is that it's really just focus on the job, and then you just prove all the haters wrong by just over time.
When you're in the army, right? I say, you run here, you run there. Then they're like, yes, sir, yes, sir. Then after that, now when you're as acting minister, you're telling people, hey, go do this, we have this, we have that. Then they're like, screw you. It's a very different response. I wonder when is that your biggest challenge, or has something else, that you've experienced?
Hearing no.
So the first very interesting point I think about the army is that because of the construct of the army, the way it works is sort of for most people, you experience it, you go in when you're 18, then you live in it for 2 years. Then after that, you leave it, but you keep coming back once a week for the next 10 years. Then after that, you're actually off touch already. Right. But as with all things in life, in society, actually things move and change very quickly, including in the army. So for example, if today you try to be an army commander and then you tell people to run here, run there, you will die a horrible death very fast. So the young soldiers in the army are no different from the young people you have in the society, right? The first step they want to know is, sir, why? Why? Yeah. So you have to actually start. The very first step is about why do we need to do this?
Run to the tree. But why?
Why? Yeah, why? Why? All right. So you really have to spend time to to explain the mission, why this is important, why is this country worth defending, right? What are we trying to achieve here? Give everybody a sense of community, a common purpose to chase after. Then, once they're convinced, actually they run faster than ever to the tree if they have to. But I think that's the first great misconception, right?
I think this is why the army has inject. It's so that when you have critical thinkers, right, you still listen to inject no matter what. Like, yeah, it's just shut up and run. That's why the institution of the
Sorry, today even the inche is like, okay, let me tell your wife first. Yeah.
Oh, man. I thought they would have survived this.
Drop 20! Survive!
Well, back down to purpose and meaning.
Yeah, it's all about meaning and purpose. So that's
Interesting.
critically important. Yeah.
Recently, there was a clip about someone calling us a strawberry generation, like the younger ones, right? They're easily bruised, they have it easy. But like in your line of work, you obviously meet a lot of young people. What is it they deal with that the older people just don't seem to understand? Like struggles.
I think first of all, through about 30 years, I haven't ever met any group of people who will tell me that, the young people have it hard. Actually, they are better than us and whatnot.
Yeah.
It's always very standard. People always say that, young people have it easy. It's like during my time when I was a young person, they also say, you have it easy. That every generation after that always say the young people have it easy. So it's a very standard thing to feel. My sense of talking to young people is that they're looking at, what is it that I feel a certain dissonance with today in what I see around my community, my country, and then how can I do to change that? So I think 1 in 2 of them through our surveys tell us that they really want to look at non-traditional meanings of being successful in Singapore, right? To really redefine success, what it means on their terms. Like in my era, you say, I want to be a content creator, it would be like, what is a content creator?
What is content?
Yeah. It doesn't even exist, right? And then even if you were to describe what we are doing today to my generation, when I was a young person, they'll be like, don't bluff, it's never going to happen, right? But it was something that came about over time because of changes in technology, social media, and all these different changes. But you find that happens all the time. Because technology is always moving, there are always more and more opportunities coming up, different ways in which actually they're looking to fill market gaps, proactively trying to solve problems, right? That we all feel exist today. Yeah. So there's so much that they have to grapple with, so much they have to think about, and then now they have to also worry about things like skills decay. Then how do you deal with that kind of environment? Then your choices become very, very important. And I think those are the things that they have to deal with that we kind of don't appreciate.
Yeah, I think it's sudden irrelevance because I think for a long time people are saying like, oh, you know what, like technology is only going to proliferate, so be a coder, be a software developer, and now AI is writing itself.
That's right.
And so obviously
That's right.
it'll take a while until it becomes fully like autonomous in some sense. But if I'm a software developer now, I'm also thinking like, wait a minute, I need to start pivoting. I need to start like obtaining new skills as well. So I think it's a sudden irrelevance overnight. And not knowing what to go from there.
And then when it comes to that, I think they acquire, therefore, a certain level of resilience. Because, you just got to be used to, it's just kind of going with it and just going with the flow. When things change, you got to adapt. So I actually think they are a lot more resilient. They are a lot more flexible, a lot better at adapting and moving on to new stuff, picking up new skills. And I think what we really want to nurture and to encourage is also a certain mindset of like, well, with these new changes, there'll be new opportunities. And how do I figure those out? And how do I seize those opportunities? How do I capture them? Certain kind of lifelong learning. I'm sure with what you guys are doing, you have to keep up with the trends, figure out what's going on all the time, and then you try to move with it and all that. And that's what we're trying to nurture among our young people as well, to always be learning the next new skill, to always be thinking about how this new technology can help me do better in my work.
From a government standpoint though, or like a leadership standpoint, how does Singapore navigate the trade-offs though of like saying, okay, you know what, we want to redefine what success means for youth. We want to be relevant to them. So let them pursue what they want. Yet also like, how do we ensure that we still have a productive and a relevant talent hub so that MNCs want to still come here, set up home base here, HQ here.
Yes. So I think it's a few things. Number one is that we are a trusted place for doing business, right? We've got good stability. We are open to talent. Okay, we've got a very good workforce, globally recognized. So we will have to continue to capitalize on that. And then the next bit is about, like we're sort of saying, what are the new opportunities out there? Well, we know petrochemical is going to go, but what's going to come in its place? Clean energy, the whole thing about carbon credits, what does it bring with it?
Yeah, right.
It's about the new opportunities that are out there and how do these complement together with the position we are in today, well, we can't build the next world-beating AI chip because we just don't have the scale.
Yeah.
Well, we can be a very trusted hub for, testing AI security. Because we are small, we know that we can't chase everything, but we're just going to focus on the things that we can be good at.
Right.
And then let's do those things. Yeah. So that's sort of, where we're looking at and where we want to go. I think today there is a greater room to look at meaning, purpose, impact, making a difference. And all these things can actually align with what, our young people want to do. And then I think it just provides for better and more meaningful kind of lives. Yeah.
One thing that you did mention that I think stood out to me was the concept of broadening good jobs.
Yeah.
Like I think in Singapore, we have quite a narrow view of that. And I think you also mentioned that with speaking to the young people, right?
Yes.
It doesn't just mean I go and be like a top tech engineer or I go and be a doctor or lawyer and then that is a good job. So what do you think like the good job looks like for Singaporeans in the next 5 years?
I think Singaporeans being Singaporeans, sometimes we, have a certain stereotype of what are good jobs and what are not good jobs.
Down on certain jobs.
Indeed. And I think the whole point is that with all these changes, jobs are evolving. The way jobs are being done are also changing. I think there is room for us to be able to use technology, to be able to use all these new fangled things to redesign and redefine a lot of the jobs.
So when you talk about like broadening good jobs, you're really saying to old people like, hey, look, when young people take on this job, like it's a legit job.
I think it's more than that. It's about telling the young people that, don't be afraid to try new things, to redefine success, to do things on your own terms, right? Okay, do that, we will support you. So as part of that, we set up the Economic Strategies Review Committee. So a few areas. One is to look at our competitiveness, the areas that we're good at, will the same formula continue to work? Most likely not. Then what's the new economic formula? Where do we need to invest in? Yeah. I think, we spoke about a number of them, including new areas like space, technologies. Let's take a look there. How to be globally competitive? AI is going to be pervasive in all of our lives. The question is, how do we use it to augment ourselves, to make the best out of it so that our Singaporeans are actually more productive, we can seek better careers and all that. And then the other bit is about having, supporting entrepreneurs and all that. How do we create the space for people who want to build new startups, venture into new areas? How do we support them, make sure that they are successful? And it's not just about them, it's also about the ecosystem that surrounds them, the capital, the structures, the trade flows that allows their business to thrive. And then the other part that I'm staring at is about human capital. How do we help our Singaporean workers become better? How do we have that entrepreneurial mindset, the spirit of lifelong learning, to always want to acquire new skills, to become better and all that. And then there's also one limb that stares at how do we help workers who may be inadvertently displaced for one reason or another, right? I think we want to make sure that we are able to support them to transit to new areas of growth, so that they can continue to also ride this transition well. So it's about the world is changing. How do we deal with this as a nation? How do we move forward together as a country? And then how do we, in the whole process of that, also make sure that even if we get everything correct and we are generating economic growth, this is economic growth that leads to good jobs for all Singaporeans and that no one's left behind.
I don't know if I'm reading it right, but what I'm seeing is that at least for the next 1-2 years, as AI gets better, it's going to start replacing early jobs, like very entry jobs, right?
Yes.
And so there seems to be that cutoff. Like if you've been doing your job for 10 years, you most likely might be safe. It's about how you incorporate AI into your work. Yeah. But for young people, it's like, hey, wait a minute, like my job opportunities have suddenly like halved, right?
Yeah.
So what's then the advice to young people?
Yeah. So this is where, as part of the Human Capital Committee as well, we are also looking at how does the whole education model works. Right? Recommendations as to how should education change. The way we therefore prepare our young people to take on jobs, cannot be the same as before.
Right.
It cannot be a case whereby, you study for 4 years, you got everything, just go and work. No, it's not that. Things will have to be a lot more interweaved and interspersed, right? It's not so much of the study, then work all the way, but you will have to intersperse study and work together,
right,
so that you keep acquiring those new skills that we talked about. It has to be a curated series of experiences to help you develop that instinct, to help you develop that judgment, so that you are able to use AI to augment yourself. So it's not about acquiring the same skills as before, but those new skills to enable me to understand how to employ AI well, so that from day one, I'm as productive as somebody who went through the old system 8 years ago.
But it's so interesting that you said it, because it's not just about the knowledge or the skill. It's that after 8 years of working, there is a lot of shorthand, there's a lot of instinct, experience that you have. And so it's about how do you replicate that into the syllabus.
That's right. And how do you also make it such that actually, while you're studying, you're getting some of these opportunities to work with the companies, to be immersed in the company structure. And I think one of the more forward-thinking academics also told me that perhaps the whole concept has to shift. The moment you have acquired enough skills, enough knowledge to go and take on a job, and the company is willing to hire you, actually go there first. And then you start working first, and then from there, as you progress, then you find that you need new skills and you come back. It's like almost like a rain check system. You come back, then you do more modules, and at the right point in time, you acquire enough, you graduate. Because it should not be about, you meet 4 years, but rather I give you enough skills to be able to do your job. And then when enough of those skills stack up, then I provide you with the certification. So it's no longer just chasing standardized testing, chasing things for the sake of chasing things, but rather it's acquiring skills with a purpose to be able to harness technology, harness AI to be more effective at your work.
I think when we talk about adopting AI into our work and our lives, right, in general, I think to the young people, this is a lot easier. But for the older folk, right, I think it's tougher, not in the sense of like, this is the way we always done things, or like, I don't want to learn, it's difficult for me to learn new tech. I don't understand what is all this machine learning and all that, right? But we tie our value to our work. For 45 years, I've been confident in and proud of myself for being able to do this, right? And so now when it feels that like my so-called expertise can be replaced by like somebody putting a prompt into a random one of the engines, right? But then I feel like I've lost my value.
Yes, I mean, there's a lot of anxiety, and it's quite natural to be anxious that this thing may replace me. But if you take the time to sort of reflect and ask ourselves, actually, I've been doing this for 45 years. What are the things I've acquired, the experience and the wisdom that I acquired over that time that no machine can replace? How do I make myself better by capitalizing on this and then letting the technology and the AI do stuff that previously I had to spend a lot of time doing, but now actually I don't have to. Then actually that enables me to be multifolds more effective. It's about just giving ourselves a little bit more credit. There's a certain wisdom, there's a certain value to the experience that you sort of develop over time. I mean, you can ask AI for a baseline of, for example, what this episode is going to sound like, look like, all that. But I don't think that'll be the answer. You have to apply your own experience. You run these things, I don't know how many times, but you must have done this umpteen times. You know what works, what doesn't. You have to apply your judgment, your ingenuity, and then actually you make that better. There's a human aspect to this that AI cannot replace.
So looking ahead, right, what do you think is the biggest change that will happen in the way Singaporeans live and work over like the next 10 years,
Well, I think one of the biggest changes would be all these new technologies are coming out, whether it's AI, agentic or whatnot. I think they'll be way more pervasive in our lives. So I think you would expect to see that play out, and it really comes down to whether are we able to have this entrepreneurial mindset, the willingness to seize opportunities, to make use of these technologies, to help us do our things better. But the other bit is also about us giving ourselves, especially our young people, the space and the time to redefine what it means to be successful. What we spoke about in terms of what good jobs mean, according the right level of respect and dignity to each new role that comes along, right? And supporting our young people in their dreams and aspirations to allow them to boldly go forth where, there may not be such just like all of you, right? This is something that didn't exist during your parents' time, but to be supportive, to allow you to make that path, to create things. And I think if we can do these two things well, I think we'll continue to do well together as a nation and continue to be able to pull together as a community.
Big thank you to Minister for joining us today and being open and sharing with us. If you would like any more information on the stuff that we talked about today, you can check out these links or we'll put them down in the description. See you in the next one. Bye-bye. So in your current role, right, you actually also talk to quite a bit of young Singaporeans,
Yes.
I would imagine.
The why?
Yes.
MCC.
Why? Yes. Why?
He's still taking notes.
You guys do that for like annual dinners?
He's gonna make them do it now, and they're gonna hate you.
They're like, hey, we don't do that here.
They
do
actually did it at the last one.
Oh,
But I was not involved. Yeah.
We were so last year.